I think it was about respiratory function.
Yeah, that was it. You said, are respiratory problems, hyperventilation and aspiration common in CMT? Well, this is a debate, but there's something going to be published about this fairly soon, a paper going to come out on it, which I've seen, but it hasn't been published yet, so I can't really say any detail. I think most people with CMT do not have respiratory problems. Most people. You know, they may, if they're not very fit, get a bit breathless, but most people don't. There are specific forms of CMT which part of that form is respiratory problems, either with a problem with the diaphragm or with a problem with the vocal cord. And there's one specific gene that causes that, such that your voice, people lose the ability to sing, for instance, or they just sound that their voice is a little bit different, but they're very exceptional parts. What we're beginning to realise, and I think there will be evidence about this, is that there is a higher instance probably of what's called sleep apnea with CMT. Not a very high instance, but probably. Now, why is that? Well, nobody's quite sure, except CMT affects the longest nerve, so the legs first and then the hands. And actually, the nerves for our breathing are pretty long. In a horse, I'm not saying we're horses, but I only learned this. In a horse, the longest nerve is one of the nerves of the diaphragm. I didn't know it was longer than their leg nerves, and they get this problem, which they get a lentipene neuropathy, which affects their breathing first. So in some people, there is a problem with breathing, and that manifests with the following. So often a lot of people snore. So snoring is not necessarily abnormal. But if people begin to snore an awful lot, and if they wake up feeling very unrefreshed, now I always find that a difficult question, because when my alarm clock goes off at 5 or 6 in the morning, the word refreshed does not come to mind. So it is a difficult question. And then during the day, people with CMT get fatigue. But sometimes people notice a change over a few years that really it's incredibly disabling, such that they're always falling asleep. If they sit anywhere, they're falling asleep. And if that happens, what we would suggest now is they should have what's called a sleep study. It's just where you put something that measures your oxygen as you sleep at night, and there is treatment for that if that's the case. So I think there's a slightly higher chance of having problems breathing, but it's very treatable problems, and it's not in everyone. But there are very specific times of CMT where there is a problem. And then, of course, there are severe forms of CMT where people have very severe breathing problems, a bit like people with muscular dystrophy. I have patients on ventilators at home that use them most of the time, and these are very rare. But I think it's important we recognise they're part of CMT because they're the very rare people. You won't find people coming to meetings that are that badly affected, but they are out there. But they're very rare. But they do need treatment in the same way. But it's the very severe forms. Hyperventilation, people don't hyperventilate. That's not common. It's usually the other. And aspiration is extraordinarily rare. So to actually be bad enough that food or drink goes down the wrong way, it only happens in extremely severe CMT. That's very rare in CMT.